That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, let's go through and let's talk about some of these buy low running backs. And there's going to be a theme for this video, okay? It's going to be very simple. These stud running backs on elite offenses that disappointed for one reason or another, you better believe we're going after them. We'll be talking about exactly the prices we should be paying. I'm going to be talking about where I'm moving them in my rest of season rankings, even though I'm not going to have those officially out until tomorrow on Patreon. But of course, before we dive into it, we have to give away some Fantasy Flock Network hats, giving away hats every single video for the people who leave comments on the videos, for the people going down there, dropping those likes. And of course, thank you so much for supporting the channel. We just passed 60,000 subscribers on the live channel, which is unbelievable. Yeah, let's go through. Let's give away a hat to Grant and Jose. Of course, if y'all win those hats, just make sure y'all go through and send me an email with your physical address ASAP so I can get those out to you. Outside of that, really the only other announcements is, I guess you could always go buy a Fantasy Flock Network hat, support the channel that way. You can get that through Patreon, as well as our rest of season rankings, an in-depth podcast breaking down your fantasy football team, our dynasty rankings, get in a dynasty league with us this offseason. There's so many cool things going on Patreon, as we always say. And yeah, I think that should be it. Let's go through and let's dive into a couple of these running backs. Let's start it off with someone that, I'm not going to lie, I watched very little of this game because this game was disgusting and I did not want to watch any more of it. Let's go over to the Buffalo Bills and Zack Moss. And now there are a couple things that I think we can be taking away from this game. And the things that we can be taking away are nothing notable happened here, okay? So I think that there's nothing we can actually be looking at. And here with Zack Moss, yes, of course, if you're looking at the box score and that's the only thing you're checking, Devin Singletary came out. He outplayed Zack Moss. Devin Singletary had 48 snaps compared to Zack Moss's 19. Devin Singletary had 8 targets compared to Moss's 4. He had 6 carries compared to Moss's 3. Now, did anything happen in this game? Yes, Zack Moss left early with an injury. That's really notable. And what I love to see with Zack Moss is the small duration of play. He was still getting that involvement as a pass catching running back, something we didn't even really expect from Zack Moss coming into the season. But knowing if he can add that onto his game, as he has demonstrated so far in 2021, and an offense that pretty much is going to be trying to funnel everything through the passing game. We already know that with Buffalo. That's going to be making Zack Moss a consistent running back 2 on a week-to-week basis. And I think you can actually get him at a really nice discount. Now, of course, the actual price that you're going to be paying is going to be dependent on the injury that he actually had. We're going to have to be waiting until Tuesday, Wednesday to get some more official reports. I'm not going to lie. I'm recording this at about 2 a.m. on Sunday night, so it's a little bit late for me to be going through and trying to tell you exactly what's going on with this injury. So of course you're gonna have to do your own research, but just talking about the involvement that we'll have from Zack Moss is crucial, and that he only played 19 snaps, had 4 targets, so he's getting targeted on about 20% of his snaps, which of course isn't going to maintain throughout the entire season. That rate would be ridiculous. That would be Christian McCaffrey level. That would be even probably higher than Christian McCaffrey level, if we're going to be completely honest here. And with Zack Moss, he ran a route on 14 out of 19 snaps that he played. I mean, he did get 3 carries as well. So you had the Buffalo Bills looking to Zack Moss with 7 opportunities out of his 19 snaps. This clearly shows us in that limited sample, they were trying to get the ball to Zack Moss, which is a continued trend, because if we go through, check out what Zack Moss has done so far this season, we can just go back to the other games that he has been healthy in. I mean, going back against the Dolphins in week 8, he got 7 targets out of the backfield. 7 targets for a running back that, yes, maybe isn't that athletic, maybe not that dynamic. I'm never arguing that Zack Moss is one of the better running backs in the NFL. What we're arguing is his role in this offense will lead to fantasy production, and that the Buffalo Bills offense will have one of the best offenses in the entire NFL, just knowing that if we go over and listen to Las Vegas, and this is something that I always do, because I can sit here and I can just say whatever I want, dive into whatever numbers you want to look at, and anybody for fantasy football can try to paint a picture, and they can do as much research as humanly possible. And I will tell you, at the end of the day, we are not going to know as much as Las Vegas. Like, let's be completely honest here. Vegas knows more than us 99.9999% of the time, Vegas is always going to win. Whatever sportsbook you're looking at, whatever player props action you're looking at, Las Vegas knows more. We go to this next game to see, what they're thinking with the Buffalo Bills. 13-point favorites against the New York Jets. They still have the Buffalo Bills as the highest scoring offense in the NFL. If they're not changing their minds on this Bills offense, I see no reason to either. I think that you just look at this game for the Buffalo Bills. You throw it out the window. We're not going to be using it in our projections going forward. I'm assuming that Zack Moss will be a running back, seeing over 60% of the opportunities, almost all the usage in the receiving game, and one of the most powerful offenses in the NFL. So yeah, go try to buy Zack Moss on the low. Of course, wait until we have the official report on exactly how long he is going to be out, however. Now let's go over to our next running back. And this has been a running back that we've actually been talking about as an intriguing buy low candidate for quite a while now. Aaron Jones. Now with Aaron Jones, yes, he comes out and this past week drops you 5 fantasy points, which of course is horrendous. What's really weird, and I did not expect this at all, is that Aaron Jones had a total of 0 receptions this game. Now, he had 12 carries. He had 53 rushing yards, which honestly not that unfamiliar of a stat line for Aaron Jones. The issue is usually with Aaron Jones, this is also a running back that you can count on the same time to add you on 5 receptions, to add you on, say, 30 receiving yards and get a touchdown either in the receiving category or the rushing category. And that just simply didn't happen. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be saying, well, Mason, A.J. Dillon is taking over as a committee running back here, and that's why we're buying low on Aaron Jones. That's the exact reasoning why I want to be going through and chasing Aaron Jones, because if we had to pay for him and what he would have been in 2020 or what he would have been in 2019 price tags, no, you're not paying that for Aaron Jones. You're not trading away a top 5 running back overall. You're not trading away a top 3 wide receiver for Aaron Jones. But if we can get him at a low end running back 1 price tag, that's going to be something I'm really excited about doing for an owner that may be worried about A.J. Dillon continuing to expand his role in Green Bay. And now I really want to come out here and I want to just reiterate, I love A.J. Dillon. I loved him in Dynasty in that 2020 draft class. We drafted A.J. Dillon everywhere we could. And with A.J. Dillon, if anything were to occur to Aaron Jones, all of a sudden A.J. Dillon does become a top 10 running back in fantasy. But one thing that I really want to go back to, right, is what have we seen in Green Bay since, pretty much 2017. We have seen Aaron Jones since 2017, since he came into the NFL, play a committee running back role with Jamal Williams in this offense. Like going back, let's remember what Jamal Williams had in 2018 and 2019. Let's just go every single season, just so we can be putting into some context here that this is nothing new for Aaron Jones. Jamal Williams, 2017, 153 rushes. 2018, 121. 2019, 107, and that wasn't even the full season. In 2020, 119 with only 14 games played. It's kind of shown us that Aaron Jones, he's not that Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry level workhorse. We talk about this all the time, though. Doesn't have to be, because you don't have A.J. Dillon coming out and having a massive role in the receiving game. Now, I know this past week, A.J. Dillon was getting some targets out of the backfield, which is the same thing that we had from Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams, he gets 35 targets in 2020. In 2019, 45 targets. In 2018, 41 targets. Yet in those seasons, you get Aaron Jones coming out and providing you top 5 running back upside, because Aaron Jones is getting the elite level usage in the receiving game. And at the same time, there's just a ton of efficiency in this Green Bay Packers offense, where the red zone opportunities will be through the roof with Aaron Jones. And if we're going to go through and see if any of this has changed, not really, because I think that there are 2 weeks this season that we can just throw them out the window for the Green Bay Packers. Back in week 1 against the New Orleans Saints, and this past week in week 9 against the Kansas City Chiefs, knowing that week 1, obviously this was a team that just couldn't do anything against the Saints. And I think we can say that it's something to potentially do with the Aaron Rodgers controversy that we had all season. Just throw it out. I don't think anybody's really going to be arguing against that. This past week, Aaron Rodgers did not play. He's not playing with Jordan Love going forward. That's a given. And what has Aaron Jones been in weeks 2 through 8 so far this season? He's been the running back 3 in fantasy. Yes, a top 3 running back overall. He is getting the targets out of the backfield. We know that this is still an offense getting to the red zone regularly when you have Aaron Rodgers in there. He's had 7 touchdowns so far this season. And on top of this, if you remove those 2 weeks that he had in week 9 and in week 1, he's had a total of 37 targets, if my math is correct, for removing those weeks. We're going to be looking at 7 weeks, 37. He's averaging over 5 targets a game here in Green Bay as well. There's nothing changing with Aaron Jones. Go through, trade for him if we can. Now, our next running back will have the highest price tag of anybody on this list, and he should have the highest price tag, and it shouldn't even be close. Let's go over to Christian McCaffrey. Now, yes, with Christian McCaffrey, he was disappointing if you were expecting running back 1 overall production this week. And every single time someone asked me if we should start Christian McCaffrey, we said yes. Actually, there was one question when someone came out and said, hey, should we start Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, or Alvin Kamara? My response to that was like, how the hell do you have those 3 running backs on the same team? You will probably be benching Christian McCaffrey this week. But yeah, CMC didn't come out. He didn't give you that running back 1 performance, and he was on a snap count like a lot of people expected. But at the end of the day, Christian McCaffrey was the running back 13 in fantasy this week. And if we're looking at the amount of snaps that Christian McCaffrey played coming back from this injury, I mean, keep in mind, this also wasn't a competitive game, so you really had no reason for them to be pushing it with Christian McCaffrey. But he played 29 out of 59 snaps in this contest. So Christian McCaffrey played exactly pretty much half of the snaps. We know historically that Christian McCaffrey is a running back that's going to be getting to 90% plus of the snap rate in Carolina. Now, I will say, maybe you expect them to scale that back, given the fact that, I mean, they possibly have better running backs now with Chuba Hubbard. I mean, Amir Abdullah got the majority of that secondary work for whatever reason. Nonetheless, I mean, maybe you expect them to scale that back with Christian McCaffrey just having injury after injury after injury. But nonetheless, let's say you meet him in the middle. Let's say that instead of him getting his 95% snap rate and versus his 50%, he's getting to 75%. This is something we did in the live stream a ton over the past couple nights whenever we've had a lot of Christian McCaffrey injuries. And let's go back to what you had in 2019, right? Let's go back to what we saw in a full season of Christian McCaffrey. And this is when you had the elite bell cow level usage. This is when you had Christian McCaffrey breaking fantasy football. And we are not going to be expecting him to have this same season. Not going to be putting those expectations on him. But let's see what 75% of that workload looks like. Because obviously with Christian McCaffrey, this is a special running back. I think it's fair to assume, like if you are worried about Christian McCaffrey seeing his role scaled back, Christian McCaffrey's not going to become a 50% snap rate player. Christian McCaffrey's not a 50-50 backfield split type guy. I'd say worst case scenario, 75%. I think that everybody can get behind that. And with Christian McCaffrey back in 2019, he averaged 29.89 fantasy points per game. If we are going to be taking 75% of that, we are left over with 22.41 fantasy points per game. What would that be good for so far this season? 22.14 fantasy points per game. I would say that this is Christian McCaffrey's floor going forward, given the fact we're taking 75% of that production. That'd be good for the running back 2 in points per game, only behind Derrick Henry. That put him ahead of Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift. 75% of Christian McCaffrey is a better option than those guys. So I know for a fact right now you could go trade Alvin Kamara for Christian McCaffrey. You do that now. Please, for the love of God. I know we saw Dicer out in the premiere. Dicer, thank you, of course, for always coming out to the premieres. Thank you for being in the live streams. Thank you for being on the flock on Patreon. Of course, thank you so much for that, my friend. But I know you said, should we go Kamara or CMC? You're going to go Christian McCaffrey here. I mean, especially with Alvin Kamara getting some Mark Ingram usage this past week. You don't need to dive into that too much. But I think a CMC is just a play that, like, you're trading for the player that has league-breaking potential, and I think you're doing it at his floor price. I'll trade any running back for Christian McCaffrey right now. I hate to say it with Najee Harris going to go on Monday night. Obviously, Harris looks fantastic. But I would take any running back over Christian McCaffrey. Yes, that includes Jonathan Taylor. Now, our next running back, keeping up with the trend, just went through, talked about Aaron Jones, a running back that was very disappointing on a very bad offense. Let's go talk about someone else, that same mold. Let's go talk about Ezekiel Elliott here. So with Ezekiel Elliott, yes, a very disappointing week. I mean, you had a very disappointing week from this entire Dallas Cowboys offense. I mean, kind of surprised to see with what we had with Dallas. I mean, there was a 10-point spread on this game. You had Vegas projecting Dallas to be the 3rd highest scoring offense of the week. And with Ezekiel Elliott and this Dallas Cowboys team, they couldn't get anything going. Now, I'll say He kind of gets there at the end with some garbage time. But with Ezekiel Elliott, you've just seen such a high floor so far this ceiling. Obviously, week 1, he was disappointing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A clear buy low opportunity. Hopefully, everybody listened after week 1. People were panicking after that Thursday night game. But since then, if we remove week 1 from this sample and that toughest matchup that he is going to see, if we just look at weeks 2 through 9 with Ezekiel Elliott, this is a running back that although he has been splitting touches with Tony Pollard, he is still the running back 6 so far this season. I think going forward, the addition of Michael Gallup may actually help Ezekiel Elliott, as crazy as that sounds, just given the fact that Gallup's going to be raising the floor on this entire Dallas Cowboys offense. And if we're going to be looking at the upcoming matchups that you have for the Dallas Cowboys here, you have great matchups against the Falcons, the Chiefs, the Raiders. We know the Raiders have a great pass defense. Maybe we decide to just go through and run the ball if you're the Dallas Cowboys there. I'll say the Saints, probably a pretty tough one in week 14. But then in the fantasy football playoffs, you're not worried about that schedule whatsoever. So I think if we can go through, just trade for Ezekiel Elliott at a discount. I'm not worrying about these offenses at all. Don't worry about Buffalo. Don't worry about Green Bay. Don't worry about Dallas. If we're going over and checking out what Vegas is telling us this week, let me see if we have lines up on this Dallas Cowboys game just yet. Right now, if we're going to be pulling this up, you're actually going to see that the Dallas Cowboys are 9-point favorites over the Atlanta Falcons. Clearly, Vegas is still on this Dallas team. Let me pull up and look at what they actually have as the spread on this game as well. Okay, so they have that over-under at 52 points. So that's going to be projecting the Dallas Cowboys to maybe be the highest scoring offense of the week. Yeah, if we're going through, it looks like they're projecting Dallas to be the highest scoring offense of the week. And like we said, to open up this video, Vegas knows more than we do, 100%. I think we go through, we trade for the lead running back that's had that just very high floor in the best offense in, probably not the best offense in football, a top 3 offense in football with Ezekiel Elliott. Now let's go over to our next running back to recap this video, or just to end it. I don't know what you want to say, but you know it would not be a buy low running back video for the Fantasy Flock Network if we were not going to be getting out some positive talk with Javonte Williams here. Javonte Williams has made the past 3 videos for us. He's made the past 3 buy low videos because this is a running back I cannot shut up about with the talent that he has. Now, yet again, Melvin Gordon comes out. Melvin Gordon outproduces Javonte Williams, and he outtouches Javonte as well. Where Melvin Gordon, at the end of the week here, he actually had 21 carries out of this backfield. Now, Javonte didn't get nearly that many. Javonte, I believe, was capped at about 17. But one thing is, if you're looking at the split while this game was competitive in the first half, this was a pure 50-50 running back backfield. And Javonte Williams looked so much better. Now, Melvin Gordon scores the touchdown. So Melvin Gordon, yes, comes away with more fantasy points. But I think on the whole, especially now that we were seeing that Denver is, I don't want to say packing it in, because obviously this is a very impressive win against the Dallas Cowboys, or trading away stud key veterans like Von Miller. Like, how does Javonte Williams not get here? Let's go through, and you know what we can do right now? Let's go check out 2019 with what we actually had with Miles Sanders, because y'all know this is what we said coming into the season. What we said coming into the season was he's going to be 2019 Miles Sanders. He was going to be 2020 Jonathan Taylor, as he fit that prototype. And if we're going to be looking after the bye week for Miles Sanders in week 10, just a clear parallel of what you have in Denver right now with Javonte versus Melvin Gordon. Back in 2019, it was Miles Sanders versus Jordan Howard. You had Miles Sanders, if we're looking at weeks 1 through 11, Miles Sanders on a points per game basis was the running back 35. And if we're going to be looking at after the bye week, if we're going to be looking at weeks 11 through 16, so the last 6 weeks when you're in your fantasy football playoffs that matters, Miles Sanders jumps up to being the running back 3 overall. We saw this last year as well with Jonathan Taylor. Let's go through. Let's look at the first part of Jonathan Taylor's season. This one's going to be a little bit harder to draw that split just because his bye week was in the middle. You know what? Let's just draw it. Let's draw it after he misses this game in week 12. Let's go weeks 1 through 11 here with Jonathan Taylor. We'll just do the same exact timeline that we had with Miles Sanders. And with Jonathan Taylor in weeks 1 through 11, he's the running back 16. So a very similar, actually, that wasn't even points per game. We're looking at points per game here. Jonathan Taylor is the running back 27. Damn near identical what we had with Javonte. We're looking at the end of the season with weeks 11 through 16. You actually have Jonathan Taylor jumping up to being the running back 4 overall. I mean, this is just what you see with these rookies. At the beginning of the year, it's not going to be there, but they will continue to expand their role. What you have to identify is the players that have the talent that are clearly flashing at the beginning part of their season, like Taylor did in his rookie year, like Javonte does right now. Like Javonte, he comes out, he has 100 rushing yards in this game. Obviously, you're not buying that low on Javonte, but I really think it's just a matter of time with Javonte Williams. He is going to get there eventually. He's a player that you can play right now for desperate. I'm not going to be telling you this week to go and get that excited about playing Javonte Williams in week 10, but in the long term, if you're a fantasy football playoff team, I think that you want to go and you want to load up on Javonte. Now, thank you again, of course, for supporting the channel. Thank you for being a part of the flock. I really hope that this video was able to help you out. I really hope that you got something from it. Please make sure you go down there, drop that like, leave a comment to enter in to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. Subscribe to the channel, join these 60,000 people a part of the flock. And if you want to join the flock on Patreon, of course, you can go find that link in the live chat. You can find that link in the comment section. You can find it in the description of the video. Over there on Patreon, you get an in-depth podcast breaking down your fantasy team. You get our rest of season rankings. You get our dynasty rankings. You get a Fantasy Flock Network hat. There's so many cool things over there on Patreon, so get to take advantage of that. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much, and have a great day.